When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Join Up Dots. This is going to be a good one. I tell you what, this is one of those episodes where you will be scribbling notes on bus tickets, on the back of the old lady's head, on the lady's chest sitting next to you. Any space that you can find, you will be scribbling notes, because the couple that I've got on the show today are quite simply, they stopped, looked at their life, and then made it what they want. Isn't that what life's all about? And with the greatest respect to both of them, and we'll discuss this in the interview, they're what we would call normal. A normal couple with a normal lifestyle, normal kids, but an extraordinary way of making decisions, and enough of them to make things work the way they want. Now, they're the owners of the Flipped Lifestyle business, where through their own mistakes, successes, and consistency, they now teach people the route to success in their own business. They teach how to create businesses that work around a family instead of the other way. As they say, in 2012, on a rare day off work, Shane stumbled across a podcast about regular people changing their lives through online business. And they started brainstorming about how they could do this too, and started a couple of websites just to see what happened. Now, no one could have prepared them for what happened next, and in just a few short months, they were able to make thousands of extra dollars each month through online business. And just 1 year later, they surpassed the 5-figure mark in online sales for a single month. When their August 2013 sales surpassed 36 grand, they decided it was time to stop working for someone else and start living for their family. I would have done it earlier. And now, with sales in excess of $1 million, all earned online, they travel the globe in their shorts and sneakers, smiling broadly from ear to ear as their community of wannabe entrepreneurs grows their smiles with them. So, looking back on their lives as hard-working teachers, do they think that the ability to change a life so dramatically is more down to mindset or talent? And was it really a rocket ship to success they launched with a doubt that it would fail, or did they go through the same issues as the rest of us? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Shane and Jocelyn Sams. Good morning, lovely couple. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us, David. We are really excited to be here.
I tell you what, we do a lot of podcasts, man, but that was the best intro I've ever had. I'm telling you. I think I'm going to take that and put that on my homepage, David. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You deserve it. You deserve it. And just for the listeners, can we explain that Shane's the one with the deep voice and Jocelyn's the one with the kind of
right, exactly.
the lady's voice?
Some people confuse us sometimes, but that's okay.
No, I've been in many bars and I've got confused myself at times, but that's more down to alcohol. So with your life, there's so much. So I normally do a preamble, but I'm going to steam straight into it because you've kind of got the life that so many people want. Nowadays, it's hustle bustle and you're picking the kids up and you're throwing them at somewhere so you can get off to work and you can get back and stuff. Your life would have been like that. All of our lives was like that. When you look back now, do you think, what took us so long, or was it the right moment at the right time with the right podcast and the right ears for that message to be received?
Yeah, I think that, we do have we always look at each other and go, our life is weird. Like we just got off a Disney cruise a couple of weeks ago, and we're building a deck outside. We actually have like our own private lake, like behind our house. And, 5 years ago, I was standing in front of a history class. Jocelyn was sitting at a desk in a library in an elementary school. And we kind of sit here and say, how did we even get to this point, like at all, to even live a life like this? But I don't think we could have handled success before this necessarily. Yeah. And it was the right timing because we had catalysts that forced us into this lifestyle, basically.
I think that's right, what you say. There is a time when you can handle it. Right. You can't handle the truth, as they say. And there's certain times when you can't handle the success. And even the success that I've got now with Join Up Dots, I look back on it and I can see there was times when it started to go really well that actually scared me. Even though at the beginning I would have sworn blind. That's all I wanted. I wanted the success. But I got to a point when I thought, I'm not sure if I can handle this. So, what does success actually mean to you now? Is it the private lake? Is it being able to wake up when you want? Is it the freedom, or is it something more?
Yeah, I think that really success for me means just having freedom. being able to do what I choose when I choose to do it. We have 2 young children. We have an 8-year-old boy, Isaac, and we have a 6-year-old girl. Her name's Anna. And we're able to go and eat lunch with them at school. We can volunteer in their class and hang out with them. So, the physical possessions, those are nice, but that's not really what it's all about for me. It's really more about just having freedom, being able to do things I choose to do.
And also, too, like we always say there's 2 resources that you really have in your life. You've got time and money. And the time one always is like written in bold, italic, giant font. And the money is like normal font. That's kind of how I see it, because, we can travel like during the week, like when we go places with the kids where there's less crowds, not as, no lines on rides, everything's a little bit cheaper during the week than on the weekends. And just little things like that to kind of flip your life like upside down and live kind of the opposite the way the world does is just it's invaluable. You can't even put a price tag on it.
It is that freedom. I remember reading the 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss, and that was a big sort of kickstart to my entrepreneurial journey. And I remember in the book, or on one of his blog posts, he said he realized that people didn't actually want $1 million. They wanted to live like they had $1 million. And so if you have got the freedom to go, that's when the flight is the cheapest, we'll jump on that. It is a total game changer, isn't it? People don't need to hurry scurry to get more and more money. They just need that opportunity, that flexibility in their life.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's the way that we live our lives all the time. We always do things kind of opposite the world. And you are able to save money that way. So, we don't make saving money a huge initiative, I guess, but it is a nice side benefit, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and I can remember, we remember back to our old life, like when we were on the most regimented schedule. Like we were teachers. Like I couldn't go pee unless the bell rang. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just but you get into this flow of life and you don't realize all the stresses that our society and our modern world puts on us until you kind of remove some of those and you're like, wait, I don't have to do it that way. I don't only get to go on vacation on the 4th of July. I don't only get to do X on these 2 weeks during Christmas break where the kids are home from school. And when you add that flexibility into your life, you see that life is better. It's richer. It's easier than even if you had millions and millions of dollars. It's more the time freedom that sets you kind of free with all of that other resources and stuff.
So how is your bladder control now, Shane? Are you like a dog just going whenever you want because you can?
Yeah,
or are you...
I got 30. We got 30 acres and no neighbors, man. I just back porch, whatever. It don't matter, man. We're in the South. You know what I mean? The only thing seeing me is those 2 deer on the other side of the lake. So whatever.
Upstairs, out the bedroom window, whenever the need.
Go for it. Go for it, man.
You can go for it. So let's talk about your business, because it was a rocket ship, because I have spoken to so many people and yours seems to be one of the fastest that I've seen. Just within a few months, you started to see more than just the green grass coming through. You started to see some kind of success. How much was the first money that you had? Because no matter who it is, they all remember the first online payment, either from AdSense or from a sale, that, oh my God, this actually works. Can you remember?
Oh, yeah. I remember it vividly. People always ask us, what's it like to make a ton of money? What's it like? What's your favorite moment? Was it the moment that you first made 5 figures, the first made 6 figures? And I'm like, nope. The very first memory that we have of making money is when we made 11 cents. We made like a dime and a penny, for those of you who are in America. I was laying in bed one night. I had been trying online business by myself for 3 or 4 months. When we first found online business, I was super excited. I came running. I was literally on my lawnmower listening to a podcast about a guy who was making money online. You might have heard of him. His name's Pat Flynn.
Yeah, I know him.
And I got so excited that I just ran inside and I was ready to quit my job. I was ready to just throw caution to the wind and start our own online business and try this thing. And Jocelyn was kind of like, you're a little crazy right now. If you can prove that it works, I might get on board. So, of course, I tried and failed miserably, like all entrepreneurs do when you start, right? And for about 3 or 4 months, we were making absolutely nothing. I couldn't do anything right. I was trying AdSense. I was trying affiliate links. I was trying anything possible to make any kind of money online. And one night I was laying in bed close to midnight. We were getting ready to go to sleep. And you know how you go open up your little AdSense and you're looking at your money and all that stuff. And it was zero. It was just goose eggs is all it was. So I just got frustrated. I walked to the bathroom, and I used the bathroom. This whole conversation has been about peeing so far for some reason.
We're of that age, Shane. We're of that age. It takes control of us.
I mean, and so basically, I just said like a little prayer in my head. I said, God, is this even real? Are these people scammers? All these people on these podcasts and stuff, or is this actually legit? And I was about to go to bed, and right before I went to bed, I literally hit refresh on my computer, and where it was a 0 when I hit refresh, when it came back, it said 11 cents. Someone had actually clicked on one of those spammy Google ads on one of the blogs that I had set up, and I had made money. I made money online, and you would have thought I made $11 million at that point, because I jumped out of bed. I'm a really excitable guy, man. I get really pumped up, and I was just like pumping my fist, going crazy, like touchdown in the Super Bowl or the World Cup over there for you guys in the UK. And Jocelyn was looking at me again like I was crazy. And I flipped my computer around and I said, there it is. I made some content, put it out there, and somebody sent us money back. And at first you would think your wife would be like, it's 11 cents, go to bed, right? But Jocelyn, I really saw the look in her eye change. Like her face kind of like softened, and she looked at that and her head kind of tilted. And she was like, wow, you actually made money.
Yeah, and I just thought, hey, if you can do it, then maybe I can also do something online.
So Jocelyn jumped in, and, once it was both of us working together, that's what really accelerated all of our success and why we were able to succeed so fast.
I think that's a brilliant story, and it's so similar to so many people. I remember my first one was 42p, and I created this website, and it was for hemorrhoid cream. And I just had this idea in my head that if I could create something that people were embarrassed to go into a shop for, they'd secretly do it online. Well, I didn't sell any hemorrhoid cream at all, but somebody did click on the AdSense, and it was 42p. And then I pressed F5, like you said, and it was another 42p. And I thought, this is brilliant. This is amazing. And I pressed it. It never worked again. But it did show me that you can literally make piles of money. You can make piles of money. And now I've got a holiday site out there, which it basically... every other month I get a payment from Google, and then I get a payment from a hotel company, and it just comes into my bank account. I don't have to do anything about it. So it's out there, but you have to plant the seed. So let's talk about that 11 cents. How many hours do you think you actually put in to gain 11 cents?
Oh, I probably discovered online business in the summertime because we were on summer vacation. It probably really only took me like 2 or 3, maybe 4 months to make that money, because I'm a very obsessive person. Like once I get something in my mind, like that's all I'm going to do. So I would literally come home, and every minute of free time that wasn't taking care of our babies, doing chores around the house or at work, any free time, I stopped watching TV, stopped doing anything but obsessively trying to make money online, listening to podcasts. I remember one time we got on this detour. We had went down to Tennessee for a little like mini weekend trip, and we were coming back, and we got on this detour, and I was happy that we were off the detour because it was going to take us like an extra hour to get home so I could listen to more podcasts, right? So but every second of the time I was just doing everything I could, taking massive action. So I don't think it was like a normal, hey, I'm going to work on this a couple hours a night moonlighting type thing. It was, Shane, pay attention to everything else in your life, like eating and bathing, because you need to do something. But it probably took me 2 or 3 months to actually make that first 11 cents.
And Jocelyn, how did you put up with him when he was obsessed? Because I know from my point of view, when I started Join Up Darts, my wife used to say to me, unless we meet each other somewhere in the garden, we're never going to see each other. You're just obsessed with it. How did you sort of put up with him?
She's used to it.
Oh, David, this is like everyday life for me.
Right.
Shane gets obsessed with something like constantly, so I'm just kind of used to it. So at the time, I just thought, this will pass. He's not going to stay interested in this.
Is he
and then we made that
obsessed
money,
with
and I
you?
stayed interested. So
Yeah, is he obsessed with you still, though, Jocelyn? Is he?
He is, yeah. We've been together almost 20 years now, which I hate to say because it really kind of dates us. But yeah, we've been together a long time.
we're brushing up against the 40s. That's what we're doing right now. We're brushing up against it. So
That's all right.
She's used to all my shenanigans.
Yeah, no, I've gone past the 40s. I'm coming into the 50s. I've got grandkids. I've got everything. And I can say that I couldn't work with my wife. She would drive me mental. So how do the two of you work well?
Oh, that's a good question.
Our desks are actually, we're sitting here right now. They actually face each other. Like we are literally together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we just change our hats. Like now we're parents, now we're business partners, now we're this, now we're that. So
it's, some days are harder than others. Like usually we get along really well. We have very different skill sets. So Shayna's better at like talking to people and PR type things of our business, and I'm better at like nuts and bolts and optimizing systems and things like that. So we just have very complementary skill sets. So I think most of the time I usually say that usually we bring out the best in each other, occasionally the worst.
Right. And occasionally means like about 3 o'clock every day until about 4, and then it's all over. So
but does he lean over? Does he lean over and sort of say, "Oh, actually, I think you should be doing that, Jocelyn," or does he just say, "Right, no, it's your baby, you do it"?
Yeah, that's probably more me.
Yeah.
Says that.
Jocelyn's like, "You do this, I'll do this." Jocelyn's the delegator. I think we're pretty good at that though. We kind of get out of each other's way. The only thing that really like where we stumble on each other's toes is Jocelyn and I are both kind of visionary people, like future sight type people. So, when we see an outcome that we want, if our outcomes that we want are a little bit different, that's where the struggle comes, is aligning our vision. But as for the things that we physically do in our business on a day-to-day basis, I think we've kind of fallen into really solid roles for that. But there's definitely conflict when, like, it's not that you want to go left and you want to go right, but maybe one of us wants to go a little more to the right than the other person does or something. Like that's where you get into some conflict, being married and being business partners at the same time.
So what? Without getting too personal, you get into bed at night and you both had a bit of an argument, a bit of a tetchy afternoon. Do you forget it all, or do you turn your backs on each other and wait till the next morning? How do you sort of get past that? Because sometimes it simmers.
We actually, this just happened like last night. Actually, we were like literally just last night. Like we had our kids basically stayed with the grandparents, and we had the night to ourselves. And being the entrepreneurial, nerdy people that we are, what do you do on date night? You pour a glass of bourbon and you watch online business training. That's what you do. So Jocelyn and I were watching this training last night, and we were going through some things, and we were strategizing like kind of like a little bit of a plan for the next year, and we just had a little disagreement. I mean, about which way we were going to go, and I wouldn't say it got heated, but it was like, you were mad enough to where some people would be like, "Well, I'm sleeping on the couch. Well, I'm going to bed, whatever." Mm-hmm. And usually we have resolved this because we have set up strong systems in our life. When we first got married, we set a rule that no matter how mad we were at each other, we would always go to bed in the same bed. Like that was a rule that we set in our life, because if you can go to bed together and you can get up in your own bed and you don't have this physical barrier that you've put in between you, that can solve a lot of problems, because you do sleep on it and you do wake up and you look back and go, "Man, I was pretty stupid." And, in the Bible, it says, "Don't let the sun set on your anger," right?
Yeah.
So we kind of embrace that principle, and we set a rule for our house that, no, we go to bed together. We're going to be okay. This is just a blip on the radar. And, this morning we woke up, Jocelyn made her tea, made our coffee, and we haven't even talked about it. So I think that having strong systems in place in your marriage is critical, especially when you work together.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I love a spare bed. I do. My eldest daughter's moved out now, so we've got a spare bedroom. And at the moment, it's half term, so the kids are off for 6 weeks, and my wife doesn't have to get up, and I still get up early. So I've been saying, to make it easier in the morning so I don't disturb you, I sleep in the spare bedroom. I love it. You can put your legs anywhere.
We do that sometimes at hotels. Like if we go somewhere and the kids aren't with us, we'll be there like 3 or 4 days. And like one day we'll be like, let's just sleep on the opposite beds tonight so we can get really good sleep. And we actually just bought these new beds. We have a king size bed, and it's like the Tempur-Pedic mattresses, the real soft foam stuff. We got the one that we got, like the
old person bed,
the hospital bed, the old person bed that lifts up and down, and it has 2 mattresses. So it's like you're on 2 mattresses, but you're still in the same bed. So we get the best of both worlds.
Look how excited he is, Jocelyn, even about beds for old people. He's an excitable guy, isn't he?
Very.
He really, really is.
Yes.
Well, let's play some words now. That's going to take us to the next stage of our conversation. These were said by Jim Carrey a few years ago. Let's hear them again.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
So looking at your life, obviously you were both in the education system, you were both teachers, you're now doing this. It seems like you love this more than teaching, but teaching is one of those things that you're drawn towards. What part of your life would you say was right and wrong, or was it all right?
You mean like before when we were teachers?
Yeah, when you was at teachers, you're kind of drawn to be a teacher. You like to be there, but at the moment you're rocking and rolling, you're loving what you're doing. What Jim Carrey was saying is you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. But did you used to love the other thing, but you love this more? Is it different? Does it just give you more freedom?
Yeah, so I think the reason that we were drawn to being teachers is just for the benefits of being a teacher. So before I was a teacher, I actually worked in the corporate world. And there were a lot of things about the corporate world that I didn't like the scheduling. You know, people expected you to work super long hours and you didn't get paid extra for it, things like that. So when we thought about becoming teachers, the schedule looked really nice. You know, you get off work earlier, you're off in the summertime. Like there were a lot of benefits to being a school teacher.
Yeah. And we always say that, like, we kind of thought that life was good enough. Like we had we had a house, had the 2.2 kids, had the 2.2 cars. You know, we had all those like normal things. And we really played it safe. You know, we had retirement. And if you just stick it out for 27 years, you'll get, you'll be okay. We'll pay you until you die. And that kind of like got tipped over on its head when we had some bad experiences at work. And I was actually a high school football coach and a social studies teacher. And in one school district I worked in, I had a stable job, thought I was going to be there for a while. And the schools consolidated. There were two high schools and they were going to combine them into one. Well, guess what? If you have two football teams and you consolidate, now you only have one football team. So guess what? One staff's gone, right? So I kind of lost my job based on the whim of voters in a county. And then a couple years later, my son had a really bad experience at a daycare center. We found out that they were mistreating him. They were actually locking kids in bathrooms and turning the lights out and punishing kids, getting them out of the way like that for hours at a time. I went in one day and I discovered him in the bathroom, and he had been in there for probably about 2 hours. And I went to school that next morning and I said, I've got to go. I got to go help my son. I got to go find childcare for him. I need help here. Can you please go watch my class? I was talking to my principal at my school. And she basically looked at me and said, I don't have time to do that right now. And I know your son needs you, but your kids need you too over in your classroom. So go back to class and you can handle it later. Well, and one, from almost being able to flip the desk over and, kicking someone in the face on the way out the door, I was so furious at myself in that moment because I realized I've given all the control of my life to my employer. They think they own me. I'm little more than an indentured servant right now. So that's kind of what pushed us to the path that we're on, is to take control of our life, take control of our time. If my son needs me right now, I can hit the red button on Skype and I'm on the way to him, right? And that's kind of where we're at and why we left the teaching profession. The teaching profession was that safe job. And through no fault of our own, a couple times, like Jim Carrey said, we failed at that because of circumstance. But now we're in the control, we're in the driver's seat, and we're in charge of our destiny, and we don't have to worry about that stuff.
And then when you look at your life now, Jocelyn, is it a kind of, oh my God, what were we thinking? What is the world thinking? Because I do this, I earn all my income, it's totally under my own control. If I'm going off on vacation, which I am shortly because my daughter's getting married, I just basically schedule everything. It's all done. I tidy it up. Boom, I've gone. I don't have to beg to leave. I don't have to do all this kind of stuff. I look back on my own sort of corporate life and think, why? Why did I give so much power to people? What do you think?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And we think this all the time. Just how did we ever do this? But what you have to understand is we live in a very small rural area. So there aren't a lot of jobs here. Teaching is considered to be a good job. I think in most other areas of the country, it would not be considered a good job. But where we live, it's considered a very good, normal job. And when we left, people really thought we were crazy. I mean, people thought we were nuts.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix. You know how when he first finds Neo. Have you ever seen that movie? And he's like, everyone else is plugged into the system and they'll fight to defend it, right? And that's real. That's a real thing. When we were going to quit our jobs, like my mom actually cornered me one day and said, "You have flipped out. You have children. You're a man. You got to pay the bills. You got to do this. You got to do that." And we were like, "Mom, we're making more money now than we were making then." But nobody gets it. Like nobody understands that you actually can go do something else. I'll never forget when I walked in and quit. Jocelyn and I resigned like in the same week. It was like
a month after school had started,
yes,
which
so
no one does.
No one quits during the school year.
Of.
That's just not what teachers do. And my principal said, "Hey, man, you're going to quit? Like, how long have you been teaching?" And I said, 9 years. And he said, "Man, you've been in the system 9 years. You're going to give up all that retirement, all those years?" And I looked at him and I said, "Mike, there's 18 and a half years left before I get to retire, dude. Like, I'm out." Like, people just think I've invested this time. I'm doing this. I'm doing the safe thing. It's safe. And they don't even realize that there's something else out there for them.
I need to pee when I want to pee, Mark.
I have to pee off my porch. Come on.
It's every man's duty.
We have to pee and sell hemorrhoid cream to the world. We have a mission, David. We got a mission.
I know. I tell you what, I'm easing into middle age quite easily, and I find I'm interested with you actually, Sam. Are you regressing? Are you becoming kind of younger by spirit because you can create your own lifestyle? Are you far more playful now than you was before? Because I certainly am. I'm a bit sort of mental half the time because I just love being creative and fun and playful. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think definitely for sure.
100%.
I'm a fairly serious individual, but I think that I have a lot more fun now because I don't have to worry about all of those little things that I had to worry about when I was still someone's employee.
And we also get to, you just have so much more choice on what, you get to choose what has power in your life. Like, if something stresses you out, you just remove it. You can just cut it out. And also, we spend so much time with our kids now. We try to work between 10 and 1 o'clock a day. We try to only work about 3 hours a day if we can, and we try to sprinkle lunch in there if possible. So when we're with our kids, we get to go and hang out together. We get to eat lunch together. We get, there is no way, as when we were both teachers, that Jocelyn and I would have ever seen each other during lunch or seen our children because we were all at different schools. And it's the same thing if you've got a corporate job. If you're on the road to New York and your kids live in California, you're going to miss that time with them. And just being with our kids all the time, just being able to be with each other all the time, we avoid stress. We avoid conflict. We're on the same page more, and we're having more fun. So it does make you younger when you get to spend all that time with everybody.
I think sometimes, though, we do worry a little bit because our children don't really remember a time where we weren't at home.
Yeah.
Because when we started doing this, they were 3 and 18 months. So I don't think they really remember a time that we had a, quote, real job. And we do sort of worry at times because we're like, what do our children think? We're able to do all this stuff with them. They see their friends and their parents can't do that. How do we explain this?
We were sitting here the other day, and Anna Joe had a little girl over, and they were on the back porch, and I was down by the lake cleaning out some weeds and ponds and just messing around out there to open a spot to fish. And I heard Anna Joe, our little girl, go, "We are so blessed and lucky because everything you see is ours." And she's like, "We have a lake. Can you believe it? We have a lake." And we're like, are our kids becoming we have to really guard ourselves and put into places during the day. You are lucky. Everyone else doesn't get to live like this. The only reason we get to live like this is because we worked so hard and we built something and we took a chance. And we have to really guard ourselves to make sure our kids are not becoming entitled, and do realize if you don't do the right things, you end up in the system like everybody else. But if you do those things like Jim Carrey was talking about in that quote, you take a chance, you go try to do what you love, you can have what you love, even if you fail at the other things.
What about those terrible times, Shane? Those terrible times when your kids come back and they say, I've got a school play, and they've got one line, and you've got to sit there for 3 hours listening to kids mumble just for your kids' one line. When you're in corporate land, you can get out of it. You can't get out of it, Shane. You've created this nightmare when you're sitting there in school halls waiting for that one line.
Well, our little girl dances. She's a dancer. And Isaac is a swimmer. That's what he competes in. And those sports are amazing when your kids are on the stage, but you have to go to 6-hour dance recitals to see your little girl dance for 2 minutes. Or you have to you waited a 4-hour swim meet to see your kid literally swim for 20 seconds in the butterfly.
But Shane has this figured out.
I got this figured out, dude. I got this figured out. See, the cool thing is I don't have to watch everybody else's kids or listen to them. I bring podcasts. I download some ebooks so I can learn a little bit more. I can sit there and read. And the dance recitals are great because they're usually in the dark. So I bring my black headphones and I run them up through my shirt, and nobody knows. I'm like a Secret Service guy. So I got this figured out. I'm never bored at a 6-hour dance recital. And when my little girl goes up, Jocelyn gives me the elbow, the headphones come out, and I'm in heaven. So I got it figured out, man. We figured that one out really quick.
Oh, you've got it sorted. I went to see The Wizard of Oz. I've told this story before, but it's my show, so I'm going to tell it again. And I looked at the schedule and I realised my daughter was on the first bit and then about 2 hours later. And so I was sitting right at the very back of the hall. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I shouldn't have been that tired, but I thought, oh, no one can see me. So she came out, she did a little line, and then I just thought, I'll just close my eyes for a second. And then when I opened my eyes, the entire hall was empty. All the mums and dads had got up. They'd all cleared off. I'd missed the entire thing. And how long I'd been sitting there, I don't know. But everyone was getting up, pointing at me and taking photos. It was like, it went viral. It went viral. That's how to get promotion for your business. Just sleep through your kids' play. That's the way to do it. So let's talk about promotion for your business, because it's all right saying you're doing very well. You're creating something. But, of course, you're now teaching people. So how did you start getting the word out to your audience? How did they start connecting with you and going, yeah, Jocelyn and Shane, they are trustworthy. I believe in them. I'm going to sign up for their membership.
Well, I think that it's important to go back to understand why we did Flip Lifestyle in the first place. Jocelyn and I started an education company where we were selling lesson plans to teachers. We've actually sold that business now. We just sold that recently about a month ago. And so we're not in that education space as much as we were before. But we were making plenty of money. We didn't have to. I think a lot of people start the I'll teach you how to make money online because they couldn't make money online. They couldn't do anything else. So they'll start teaching other people how to do that. The reason that we got into it was actually because of a personal friend in the real world. When we quit our jobs, at first people always say, you're crazy. What are you doing? But then about 2 months later, when they see what you're doing, they're like, oh, wait, how do I do that too? It always shifts when that happens. And one of Jocelyn's friends came up to her and said, hey, I would like to know what you're doing. I'm going to quit my teaching job and I'm going to stay home with my daughter to raise her and homeschool her and be a homemaker. That's what I want to do. So Jocelyn basically showed her how to create digital products, showed her how to sell them online. And lo and behold, she ended up making like $1,000 one month. And her and her family made a consistent amount of money going, every month they're going forward. And one day her husband walked up to me at church and said, Shane, and he kind of had a tear in his eye. And he was like, I don't think we've ever really thanked you for what you guys did when you helped us do that. That money is paying our mortgage, and my wife is able to stay home with my daughter because of that. So, and he was really emotional and just, thanked us. And of course, it felt good for someone to come up and thank you. But when I got in the car and we were driving home, I remember telling Jocelyn the story of what happened. And I looked at her and I said, what we know could help people actually change their lives. It may not be what we're doing. It may not be quitting our jobs. But what if we could help people pay their mortgage or their car payment and give them margin, take some of that stress off of them? And that was kind of the catalyst for us starting Flip Lifestyle. So from the very beginning, we've never been the interview the gurus or jump on the affiliate launches or, sell everybody's products. And I think that's really come through that we're just here to help. We're here because we want other families to experience the things that we experience. And I just think that people have trusted us. And Jocelyn always says, because we're from the South, that people inherently trust us automatically because we have an accent. So,
yeah, but I've got an accent and nobody trusts me. You see?
But you're from the United Kingdom. You Brits. Come on, man.
I
No, I was
love
kidding.
We're just
I love
evil.
British
Just
people.
kidding.
The United Kingdom, we're just evil. You get a villain in a film, it's got an English accent, hasn't it?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So you can't trust us. So the flipped lifestyle. Now, I love the fact that your mum actually came up to you and said, "Have you flipped out?"
Yep.
How did the name come along? Was it the sort of the mental aspect of turning things on its head? How did that name come about for you?
Yeah, basically, so our lives are flipped because we put our family first instead of work, instead of other things that other people or the world expects us to do. We choose what we do, and that's where the name came from.
And it actually, the genesis of that name was from my mom telling me I'd flipped out. Like as soon as she said that, when I got in the car, we were kind of coming up with a name for the business. And I was like, well, my mom thinks we flipped out and everybody else thinks we're crazy. So let's just embrace that. Let's just go with it. And it became this life philosophy. We always tell people to flip your life, right? Because we now travel opposite of the world. We spend our money in opposite ways of the world. Like even things like, like people say, I'm going to spend some money on ads. We flip that upside down and say, no, we're going to invest money in ads. We don't use the word spend. We want to use the word invest. So it is very much that turning the world upside down and putting it on its head. And my mom had a little, she gets a little portion of the trademark there for telling us we flipped out.
You don't want to tell her that. She'll have you mowing the lawns. She'll have everything. That's what mums do. They take you, Shane. It don't matter how old you are. You're still her baby.
That's right. That's right.
You can't get away from it. So we're with yourself. Somebody comes along for one of the listeners out there and they're thinking, this sounds good, but I don't know anything about online business and I can't create a product. I've got nothing to bring to the world. Are they somebody that should walk away from you, or are they somebody that really they should embrace what you're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that people who have that issue come to us all the time, and we're able in our community to help them to come up with an idea, to figure out that they are expert enough to create a product or create a service about that. And we pretty much just take them on the same journey that we went on ourselves.
Yeah, expert enough is a big word that we use a lot because people think you have to be this PhD or something else, but if you really look at your life, you're always ahead of someone else in any journey, and you can help them get that way. You're kind of like the lantern bearer on the dark path. And people say, well, I'm not expert enough, or I don't have a degree or anything like that. How can anyone trust me? And sometimes, I'll think to myself, well, did you not just pay us? Because I don't have a marketing degree and I don't have any certifications that says I'm an online business planner, but you came to us. When I started one of our first businesses, it was selling football playbooks. I had this really good playbook with really good plays that people could use for their teams to help them win more games. But the first time I was ever a head coach, I was 0-10. I lost every game in a season. We got better, but I was surely not some, state champion, national champion coach. But I had a solution for a person's problem, and they saw it as that solution, so they gave you money for it. So it's not about being the expert. It's about being expert enough. And everyone has something that they can contribute to someone else if they just dig a little bit, go through some exercises, and figure that out.
One of the first things that I did through Join Up Dots was create a podcast training, Podcasters Mastery. And I look back on it now, and it was just very basic. It was just very much, what you could get on YouTube, really. And I couldn't quite understand why people were coming to me until somebody once said, it's your profile and it's convenience. Although people can get this stuff free, they want somebody to actually hand it to them. And that was a big sort of mindset shift for me, where I thought to myself, okay, so I can create something else that they could get for free, but just offer it to them and they would take it. And I still, as I say that now, I still pause to think, why wouldn't people, go over to YouTube? Why wouldn't people Google? Why wouldn't people? But they're busy, they're convenient, and they want to go from A to B as quickly as possible.
It's the same reason we buy food at the gas station, or when we're on the road, we'll pay $2 for a can of soda that costs, if you buy a 6-pack, it costs like 50 cents a piece, because it's convenience and curation is what people want. They want the hand holding.
It's the trust factor too. People see us, they see that we have the life that they desire, and they look at that and say, okay, these people know what they're talking about. I trust them, and therefore I'm going to do what they say to do.
Yeah, when you see that we've had, we have people that we've actually helped do the exact same thing we've done, it's easy to jump on board with that, whereas when you're randomly searching on YouTube, you're like, what am I looking at here? I mean, this person's telling me to do this, but Did they help someone else? Did they do it themselves? Or are they just saying this information? And do they even have a plan, or are they just throwing at me at random information, basically?
Because you do look very trustworthy. Even your photos on your website, you know, the two of you would be perfect serial killers, because I think I would just follow you anywhere. I would climb into the car with you and you could do what you want with me. You've just got this kind of, I don't know, open, honest look about you.
I think it's we're just real. Like, people we do live events around the country, and people will meet us. And, you know, about 4 hours into it, we'll be at lunch, right? After the first sessions. And people will be sitting there at lunch and they're like, you're exactly like on your podcast. And it's because we're just normal people, really, with 2 kids, 2 dogs. We drive minivans. Like, we're not driving, you know, Lambos and pulling up to our mansions or anything. We're just like normal people going about our life. We just happen to stumble across an extraordinary thing, which we call online business.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that you were normal. The fact that you decided on something and you took control, if we went back to what we were talking about earlier, that isn't normal. We see so many people down there at a pub or a bar on a Friday night moaning about their situation, but going back to it on Monday. You stopped, you assessed, you looked. That isn't normal, is it? Definitely not.
Yeah, I think not, especially in the culture that we live in today. And, you know, like I said earlier, just the place that we live in, people think it's crazy if we want to do something out of the norm. I'll tell you something else that we didn't mention before that I think is relevant to this conversation. We also decided to sell our house in the midst of all this. So, like, when things started kind of picking up, we looked at ourselves and we said, okay, how can we push the gas on this? How can we accelerate it as much as possible? And instead of, you know, most people say, okay, well, I'll stop going through the coffee shop drive-through, or we'll start cooking more instead of eating out, things like that. We said, oh, no, that's not enough. We need to cut our spending drastically. So what we did is we put our house on the market, and we bought a house that was half the size, and we lived there for 3.5 years.
But that freed up so much money in our budget to be able to invest in our business. Like, people always say, like, how did you quit your job in a year? Because most people, you know, grind for 4 or 5 years and they finally get to do that. And we're like, you know, because we were all in. We did what it took. We sold everything that we had. Like, I had this book by this author. Is my favorite author. And I went and saw him one time and I got it autographed by him. The dude was dead. I sold that book with the autograph in it because it gave me $100 that paid for hosting for like a year. So I was just like, we just said, no, this is more important. The light is at the end of the tunnel. We got to start walking toward it, but we got to do everything we can to get there before the train runs through behind us. Right. And that's, you know, it's not normal to do that kind of stuff. But also too, I think it's because of circumstance. We had catalysts that we responded to, and I think that some people don't respond to their catalysts. They just accept them because they're told this is what life's like. Oh, life sucks. Can't wait till Friday. You know, people accept Monday through Friday as being terrible, when really if they would just look back and say it doesn't have to be terrible. If I'll just do some things to take control, I can make it to the other side where it's awesome. And I think that's just kind of what we did.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Absolutely. Now, I'm going to play some words that's going to start to ease us to the end of this episode. These are words that were said back in 2005 and created the whole theme of Join Up Dots. Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Powerful words, but are they words that really sort of resonate with the two of you?
They do me for sure. Jocelyn, it's so funny. Like, when I look back at like my life, like just getting to Jocelyn was like the most important thing in the world. And I can go all the way back to when I was like 15 years old and I got hurt playing football. And I was a really good football player, like rising up, you know, and through high school and stuff like that. And I actually broke my knee and I never got to play again, like my senior year kind of thing. Right. But that changed me fundamentally into a different kind of person because, you know, I got out of that jock culture. I got out of a little bit of arrogance. I was humbled, you know, by losing my athleticism. And when I got to college, when I met Jocelyn, if I'd still been the jock football player, Jocelyn would have never given me the time of day. Like, she would have just said, you're done, get out of here. Right. And so I ended up with this amazing woman because I got hurt. But then after college, I missed football so bad that I felt like I had not closed a chapter in my life. That's what got me into education. That's what got me into football coaching, which led to one of our first products, which got Jocelyn into education because that's why she became a librarian, was so we would both have the same schedule. And then we both started these businesses about football and elementary librarian lesson plans that led to all of our online success and got us to here. So it's so funny if you look back, the decisions that I made personally after these catalysts were what led to where we are like right now. And it's incredible looking back. You just can't, there's no way I could have known laying on a football field with my toe pointing backwards and my knee snapped in half that was going to be part of those dots on the way to where we are today. So it's amazing when you look back. 2020 really is hindsight. And I think that we take a lot of chances on our business. We just invested like $20,000 in our business yesterday on some hiring and some training and some things like that. And it was like a no-brainer because we were like, this will lead to something else. We know it will because the process has always done that before. So let's go for it and see what happens. And you can just take so many more risks when you're looking back and say, man, it does always work out in the end.
And so the words that sort of Steve Jobs almost finished with was stay young, stay foolish. Did you feel that is how life should be? Should we be young of spirit but foolish of action? Just try stuff, and the more things we try, we naturally find our thing? Or should there be a structure behind it, do you think?
You know, I think the way that we've gotten to where we are is by taking action. And this is what we tell our audience all the time. Shane always says a quote, and I don't know it right offhand. What is it that you always say?
Theodore Roosevelt, this is my favorite quote. It said, in any situation, the correct thing to do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the absolute worst thing you can do is nothing. And we embrace that quote in our business. We try to find the right solution to every problem if we can. If we can't find a perfect solution, we just go with what we got. And you know what? We never sit still because that's never going to help you in any situation is if you don't do anything. We've got this. It was so funny yesterday. This spring just popped up in our backyard yesterday out of nowhere. And we're like, why is there water shooting out of the ground? Because the ground here is really dry. So basically the water has found its way into a natural spring, but it's like 5 feet from our house. And like, we didn't know who to call. We didn't know what to do. We're like, is our house going to sink into the abyss? So we just started calling everybody. We called plumbers. We called landscapers. We called my brother. Company. We called the constable. Like, we called everybody until we finally came up with a solution that we think may work. And we don't know if it's going to work, but they're coming over today to do it. And that's just kind of how we run our business and our life as well.
Bottle it. I would have got a load of plastic bottles. I would have slapped the flipped lifestyle on the front and sold it. Right. Sold it as bottled water. That'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
It would be. We call it flipped water, and we'll put like the cap on the bottom, and you have to like hold it and drink it from the bottom. It's flipped
perfect.
Water.
Wet trousers everywhere. Across the world, people will have wet trousers and be blaming you. So if you look back over your life, Jocelyn, and everything that's led you to this point, is there a big dot? Is there a big dot that you think, yeah, that really, really was when everything started to really go the way that we wanted it to go?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I mean, I think that there are a lot of different situations. I mean, if I had to look back at one thing, I would say probably it's just Shane discovering this world. I actually call it a culture, this like online business culture, because it is sort of like a small pocket of people. It's getting bigger every day. But I think without that, you know, none of this ever would have happened. Like, we would have still been in our jobs happy enough like all the other people out there.
Yeah, I'm thankful that like People Podcast. And I think that's another reason that we were drawn to sharing our story so much, is because if Pat had never shared his story, we would have never discovered that we could actually write our own story. And that's why it's so powerful. And that we go back to that expert enough thing. It's not always about what you know. It's about what you've been through and sharing that with people to just inspire them to take action. They may not do what you do, but they're going to have a better life because of it. So yeah, that was, I will never forget hitting the brakes on that lawnmower and putting about a 5-foot skid in the grass and running inside and telling Jocelyn about online business.
I was a trainer in London, and I was sitting in my training room, and I was reading the Smart Passive Income blog every day. And I don't read it now, funnily enough, but at the time I was obsessed with it. And I sent an email to Pat Flynn, and it was something stupid, something like, would you get somebody to create your WordPress site, or would you learn it yourself? Something stupid like that. And he actually came back with an answer. And it was the first time that I realized that actually the online world was people. It wasn't just global communities. It was somebody who responded to me, and it blew my mind, where I look at it now and there's no difference between online and offline. It's just online, I can touch them and fondle them, and offline, and you can touch them but you can't, and it makes no difference. They're still there in front of you, whether they're on or off.
Yeah, it's funny because we've actually become pretty good friends with Pat, and like we've met all these people that we were listening to in the beginning. And, we had dinner with Pat up in Maine one night, and, it was like the 2 or 3 hour dinner. We had this barbecue joint, and it's like, he's got kids, him and his wife talk and do the same things we do. They're trying to buy a house, trying to put their kids through college, they're trying to live life. And if you do remove that barrier of, the keyboard is in between us. No, we're all humans, and we're really just all trying to help each other. So let's just all take action, and everything's going to be all right.
So just before we send you back in time, Shane, on the Sermon on the Mic to have a one-on-one with your younger self, for the listeners out there, what would be the biggest advice that you would give them after listening to this episode of how you've turned direction, you've changed direction totally? What would be the number one bit of advice that you give to everyone?
I think the biggest advice we usually give people is there are a whole lot of ways to succeed in whatever you want to do. People get caught up looking for magic pills and magic formulas. And if you'll just pick a path and follow that path and forget all the other noise, don't listen to 100 podcasts. Pick one person who you like and trust and go down that path. It may not lead to your richest, wildest dreams, but it's going to move you forward. And the most important thing you can do is keep moving forward, keep stepping forward. Jocelyn always says, baby steps. You have to have baby steps before you go on.
Baby steps gets you closer to your goal than standing still.
Exactly. Yeah, I knew you had a quote there. I couldn't remember what it was. But baby steps get you closer to your goal than standing still. So pick a path, remove all the other noise, and just follow it. You're going to get there if you just start moving.
And if I only choose one podcast, and it's either the Flipped Lifestyle podcast or Join Up Darts, which one should we go with, Shane? Honestly.
I think that me and you may need to start a podcast and combine forces and dominate the universe. We'll just, anybody between the Atlantic Ocean and America and England will just be dominated. So maybe that's what we should do. Let's not get into who's going to pick what podcast. Let's just all have an abundance mindset, work together. Okay.
So between the Atlantic and here, we're aiming for Greenland. We're aiming for Eskimos
we will
to
dominate the Greenland market. Nova Scotia has no idea what's about to hit them. I'm just telling you.
We're coming. We're coming.
We are coming. Join up Flip Lifestyle. That's what it's going to be. Join up. Or the Flip Dots. We'll call it that. The Flip Dots.
I like the first one because I kind of get top billing, but I'm going to go with anyone. You're an ex-football player with dodgy knees, so I can run faster than you, but you'll probably take me down. Well, this is the part of the show that we've been building up to, and this is the part that we call the Sermon on the Mic, when we send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time, Shane, to speak to the younger version, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, I'm going to play the theme, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
With the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
All right, I would choose around 23 years old. And the reason I would choose that is because after Jocelyn and I graduated from college, we moved back to my small town. I went to work as an insurance salesman and for my dad's insurance agency, and Jocelyn went to work at a corporate job selling dishwashers, commercial dishwashers for restaurants. So we had exciting lives, of course. But the funny thing was, even back then, I knew that I felt like there was something different. So I started searching online, looking for some way to make money. And I figured out, hey, I know a little bit about football. I'm going to make some football drills, burn them onto DVDs, and sell them on eBay. And I actually did this for a month and made $500 online way back in 2003, and wouldn't make another dime online until 2012 when we started again. And the reason I stopped doing it was because the people around me were like, what are you doing? This internet thing's not going to pan out. This is stupid. I don't care if you made a little money, you got lucky. Don't go down that route. Don't try to do more of that and do something else. So I started chasing different dreams. I knew I didn't want to be an insurance salesman. Jocelyn, I didn't think would be selling commercial dishwashers her whole life. So I started chasing the dream of football, which led me into education, which was still that good enough life. And if I could go back to 2003 and walk in that apartment and grab myself and shake him and say, whatever you do, keep this online business thing going. You're getting in at the most important time of the internet when it's really about to take off. iPhones aren't even invented yet. Just wait, you're going to make it. And I can't even imagine how different our life would be if I had done that. So maybe at that time I wouldn't have been able to handle it. That's okay. All things work out in the end. But that's when I would go back, and that's what I would say to my future self or my past self is stay online, forget everything else. It's going to be awesome. So
online and on track, I think is the words there. So Jocelyn, what's the number one best way that our audience who've been listening can connect with you?
Well, we would love to have you listen to the Flip Lifestyle podcast. You can find it over at fliplifestyle.com. We are also on Facebook and Instagram at FlippedLS.
Perfect. And we will have all the links on the show notes. Shane and Jocelyn, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our paths is the best way to build our futures. Shane and Jocelyn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, thanks for having us, man. This was a blast.
And there you have it. Jocelyn and Shane Sams, the Flipped Lifestyle. I really like them. They've got integrity running through every single vein. You could just feel it on the show, and you can go over to their podcast and look around. And they're the kind of people that you should connect with. If you're thinking of doing an online business, they are the kind of people that I would trust. Not some glossy, corporation, but just honest people with honest issues and honest problems. They've got kids, they've got a lifestyle. They're the ones you should focus in on. So go over to their website and connect with them. I'm sure they've got an opt-in over there, a 6-part video course, I seem to believe, from memory, and get it going, rocking and rolling. Cheers. See ya.
David
Bye-bye.
doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.